My husband told me to apologize to his mistress, so I chose myself. The house that looked like love. In 2026, the Carter house sat on a quiet street in Brookhaven, Georgia, one of those neighborhoods where everything looked perfect from the outside. The lawn was trimmed weekly. The driveway curved elegantly toward a double garage. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the soft morning sun like polished mirrors. People slowed their cars when they passed. "That's the Carter place," neighbors whispered. "Power couple. Black excellence." Ariel Carter used to believe that too. Inside the house, marble floors stretched from the entrance hallway into an open-concept living space filled with neutral tones. Cream sofas, gold accents, abstract art chosen by an interior designer Darius hired because he didn't want the place looking emotional. That word, emotional, had become forbidden. Ariel stood alone in the kitchen, barefoot, wearing a loose cotton robe. The espresso machine hummed softly as it warmed up. She liked the quiet mornings. They were the only time she could hear her own thoughts without interruption. She stared out the glass doors leading to the backyard pool. This house was beautiful, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Darius had already left for a meeting. He always left early these days. Always smelled freshly showered. Always smiled like a man with nothing to hide. Ariel rinsed a mug slowly, even after it was already clean. She didn't know why her chest felt heavy, only that something had been missing for a long time. Affection. Honesty. Presence. She had blamed herself for months. Maybe I became boring. Maybe I focused too much on work. Maybe marriage just becomes quiet. She didn't know yet that silence had been covering betrayal. The message arrived at 11:42 a.m. Ariel had just finished reviewing blueprints for a new townhouse development she was co-investing in. Real estate had always been her strength. Darius liked to forget that part. Her phone buzzed once. She ignored it. Then again. She glanced down. Unknown number. Her stomach tightened. She opened it. "I don't know how else to do this. I've tried to walk away, but I can't keep pretending you don't exist." Ariel frowned. Another message followed almost immediately. "My name is Jasmine Reed." Her fingers went cold. Then the image loaded. Darius. Not dressed for work. Laughing. Shirtless. Sitting on a hotel bed that definitely wasn't theirs. The room blurred. Ariel sat down slowly on the edge of the sofa, phone still in her hand. Another message appeared. "He told me you were calm. He said you'd understand. He said the marriage was more of a partnership now." Ariel swallowed. Her first instinct wasn't anger. It was clarity. Everything suddenly made sense. The distance, the impatience, the way Darius flinched when she touched him, the late nights, the constant phone face down. She whispered softly to the empty room. "So this is what calm costs." Her phone vibrated again. "I'm sorry. I didn't know he was still sleeping in the same house with you." Ariel stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed one sentence. "Thank you for telling me." She stood up. Her hands were steady. That scared her more than tears would have. Darius came home that night whistling. The front door clicked open. His shoes landed neatly by the entryway like always. "Hey, babe," he called out. "Smells quiet in here." Ariel stood at the bottom of the staircase, arms folded loosely, not defensively, but deliberately. "Who is Jasmine Reed?" The whistle stopped. Darius froze for half a second. Then he sighed, long and controlled, like a man inconvenienced, not exposed. "Why are you asking me that?" Ariel lifted her phone. "She sent me pictures," Ariel said. "And an apology." Darius rubbed his forehead. "You went through my phone?" "She went through my marriage," Ariel replied calmly. He walked into the living room, loosened his tie, and sat down like this was a business discussion. "Let's not blow this out of proportion." Ariel felt something crack inside her. "Out of proportion," she repeated softly. "Look, Jasmine is just something that happened," Darius said. "It didn't mean anything serious." Ariel laughed once. It was sharp, broken, almost unfamiliar. You risked everything we built for something that didn't mean anything? Darius frowned. You've been distant lately. There it was. The shift of blame. So you cheated, Ariel said, and I'm the problem. I didn't say that, he snapped. I'm saying marriages evolve. Ariel looked at the man she had defended in rooms he wasn't in. The man whose image she had funded. The man who had slowly erased her presence while standing beside her. You didn't just betray me, she said quietly. You studied me enough to know you could. Darius stood up. Ariel, let's be adults about this. She nodded once. We will be. She just didn't know yet that his definition of adult included humiliating her publicly. The request came 3 days later. Not with guilt. Not with shame. But with confidence. Darius waited until Sunday evening, after dinner, after the dishes had been loaded into the smart dishwasher Ariel bought with her own money. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and leaned against the kitchen island like a man preparing a pitch. Ariel noticed the shift immediately. This wasn't a husband coming to apologize. This was a man coming to manage damage. I've been thinking, Darius said carefully, about how we can move forward. Ariel didn't respond. She dried her hands and sat across from him at the dining table. He continued. Jasmine is struggling. She didn't expect this level of hostility. Ariel blinked slowly. Hostility? She repeated. She feels attacked, Darius said. Emotionally. She's embarrassed. People are starting to talk. Ariel leaned back in her chair. And your solution, she asked calmly, is... Darius hesitated for half a second, just enough to pretend this was hard. I think it would help if you apologize to her. The words hung in the air. Ariel stared at him. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't hear you correctly. Say it again. Darius exhaled, already frustrated. You didn't do anything wrong intentionally, he said, but your reaction made things worse. If you apologized, publicly, it would calm the situation. Publicly. Ariel's chest tightened. You cheated on me, she said slowly. And you want me to apologize? To her. She didn't know about you, Darius replied. And she feels disrespected. Ariel laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't hysterical. It was the kind of laugh that comes when reality finally reveals itself. You really don't see me as a person anymore, she said. Darius frowned. That's not fair. What's not fair, Ariel replied, is asking your wife to humiliate herself so you can keep your image intact. He straightened. There's a family dinner on Friday, he said. Everyone will be there. It's the perfect opportunity. Ariel felt something inside her go completely still. Friday. In front of everyone. She stood up. You're asking the wrong woman, she said quietly. Darius didn't hear the warning. That night, Ariel didn't sleep. She lay on her side of the bed, facing away from Darius, listening to his steady breathing. He slept easily, like a man convinced the world would always bend back into place for him. She stared at the ceiling and let memories rise. The first apartment they shared. The nights she stayed up helping him prepare presentations. The way she defended him when people called him arrogant. The checks she wrote. The silence she swallowed. She got out of bed quietly, went to her home office, turned on the lamp. Ariel opened her filing cabinet and pulled out folders she hadn't touched in years. Not because she didn't need them, but because she trusted the man she married. Trust, she realized, had made her careless. She spread documents across the desk. Property deeds, investment contracts, emails with timestamps, bank records, her name, her signature, her money. She opened her laptop and printed everything. If Darius wanted a public moment, she would control the narrative. At 3:12 a.m., she sat back in her chair. For the first time in months, her chest felt clear. She whispered to herself. I'm not begging for dignity anymore. Friday night arrived dressed in luxury. The Carter family gathered at Darius's parents' modern estate. Glass walls, soft amber lighting, a long dining table polished to perfection. Classical music played quietly in the background. Everything was curated to look respectable. Important. Ariel arrived with Darius, her face calm, posture steady. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry except a thin gold bracelet her mother once gave her. She noticed Jasmine immediately. Young, beautiful, nervous. Jasmine sat beside Darius, close enough to touch his arm. She wore a fitted cream dress and confidence borrowed from lies. Ariel felt no jealousy, only clarity. Dinner passed with forced laughter and polite conversation. Darius's mother complimented the food. His father talked business. Everyone pretended nothing was wrong. Until Darius stood up. He tapped his glass lightly. I want to address something, he said, smiling too easily. There's been a misunderstanding. Ariel felt every eye turn toward her. My wife has something she'd like to say, Darius added. Silence fell. Ariel stood. She didn't rush. She looked around the table, at people who had benefited from her silence, her money, her patience. She smiled gently. I was told to apologize tonight, she began. Murmurs rippled through the room. I was told to take responsibility for my husband's choices. Jasmine shifted uncomfortably. But before I do that, Ariel said, reaching into her bag, there are some truths I need to share. Darius stiffened. Ariel, he warned. She met his eyes. No, she said calmly. Tonight, you listen. She placed the documents on the table. And the room changed. The room felt smaller. Not because the walls moved, but because the truth had entered. Ariel stood at the head of the long dining table, documents spread neatly before her like quiet witnesses. The soft jazz playing earlier had stopped. Someone had muted it without thinking, instinctively sensing that music didn't belong in moments like this. Darius's mother looked from Ariel to her son, confusion tightening her face. Apologize, she asked softly. Darius, what is she talking about? Darius straightened his jacket, trying to recover control. Ariel's emotions are running high, he said quickly. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time, Ariel interrupted. Her voice wasn't loud. That made it worse. She turned to Jasmine. You were told I was calm, Ariel said. That I'd understand. That my marriage was just a formality. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. He said you didn't love him anymore, Jasmine whispered. He said you were more like business partners. Ariel nodded slowly. He said that because it made betraying me easier. She looked around the table. Tonight, I was supposed to apologize for making things uncomfortable, Ariel continued. For reacting to betrayal instead of pretending it didn't hurt. She paused. But I won't. The silence that followed felt heavy and final. I'm not sorry for discovering the truth, Ariel said. I'm not sorry for refusing to compete with another woman in my own marriage. And I'm not sorry for choosing dignity over silence. Darius slammed his palm lightly on the table. Enough, he snapped. You're embarrassing us. Ariel met his gaze. No, she replied calmly. I'm embarrassing you. Ariel picked up the first document. This house, she said, holding it up, purchased under my name, paid for with funds from my inheritance. Gasps rippled through the room. Darius's father leaned forward. What inheritance? Ariel didn't look away. My grandmother, she replied. She believed in ownership. She believed women should never be trapped. She placed the document down and lifted another. These investment properties, she continued, also mine. I provided the startup capital when Darius's credit wasn't strong enough to secure the loans. Darius stood up abruptly. Ariel, stop, he said through clenched teeth. She didn't. These emails, Ariel said, tapping the printed pages. "Show me negotiating deals, writing checks, and managing assets, while being publicly introduced as supportive wife." The room buzzed. Darius's sister looked at him sharply. "You told us this was your portfolio." Darius's jaw tightened. Ariel turned to Jasmine. "You weren't the first woman he lied to," Ariel said gently. "Just the first one he expected me to apologize to." Jasmine covered her mouth. "You told me she was nothing," Jasmine cried, looking at Darius. "You said she didn't matter anymore." Ariel felt no triumph, only release. "He lies to women," Ariel said quietly. "That's his pattern. That's his consistency." Darius's mother stood slowly. "Is this true?" she asked her son. Darius didn't answer, and in that silence, his image cracked. Ariel gathered the remaining documents and slid them back into her bag. She didn't wait for apologies. She didn't demand explanations. She had said what needed to be said. "I forgive myself," she said, standing tall, "for staying longer than I should have." Darius reached for her arm. "Ariel, don't do this," he said quietly. "We can fix this." She stepped back. "No," she replied. "You don't fix something by breaking someone else to keep it." She turned to the table. "I wish you all peace," she said. "But I won't purchase it with my silence anymore." She walked out. The night air felt cool against her skin. The driveway lights glowed softly as she stepped into the darkness beyond them. For the first time in years, she felt light. 3 weeks after the dinner, Ariel moved out. Not in secret, not in shame. In daylight. She didn't take everything. She took what mattered. Her clothes. Her books. Her grandmother's framed photo. Her peace. The townhouse she moved into was smaller, but it felt honest. Clean lines. Large windows. A quiet street where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved without knowing her last name. No gates. No security cameras watching her breathe. No marble floors echoing loneliness. The first night, Ariel slept with the windows slightly open. She woke up smiling. In the mornings, she made coffee slowly. No rushing. No bracing herself for coldness. No shrinking. She hung artwork she loved, bold colors, imperfect lines. She cooked food she liked, not food that looked impressive. For the first time in years, the space reflected her. And slowly, something unexpected happened. She started to feel joy again. Darius stayed in the big house. At first, he told himself Ariel would come back. She always did. But days passed. Then weeks. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. And the silence he once enjoyed began to haunt him. Business meetings felt colder. Handshakes lingered less. Smiles didn't reach people's eyes. One by one, contracts stalled. A partner asked uncomfortable questions. A bank requested updated ownership records. A deal quietly dissolved. Jasmine left without drama. "You don't protect women," she told him. "You use them." That night, Darius sat alone in the house that had once impressed everyone. The silence felt different now. Not peaceful. Judging. Healing didn't arrive as fireworks. It came quietly. Ariel joined a small women's investment circle. Not flashy. Not performative. Just honest women sharing knowledge. She spoke at a local housing forum, not as someone's wife, but as an expert. Her voice didn't shake. She started therapy. She learned that strength didn't mean endurance, it meant boundaries. One afternoon, nearly a year later, she ran into Darius at a cafe. He looked tired. Smaller. "You embarrassed me," he said quietly. Ariel met his eyes. "No," she replied gently. "I stopped disappearing." He had no answer for that. She picked up her coffee and walked away. Outside, sunlight warmed her face. She breathed deeply, and for the first time. She didn't need to explain herself to anyone. By the middle of 2026, Ariel no longer introduced herself with caution. She no longer softened her achievements. She no longer paused to make others comfortable. Her townhouse had become a place of warmth and intention. Plants lined the windows. Books filled the shelves. Friends gathered there, not to admire success, but to share laughter. Ariel's investment firm, Clearground Properties, grew steadily. She focused on sustainable housing, affordable developments, and mentoring young black women entering real estate. At conferences, people listened when she spoke, not because of who she used to be married to, but because of who she was. One evening, as she stood on her balcony watching the city lights flicker, she realized something important. She was no longer rebuilding. She was living. The Carter family dinner became quiet legend. People talked, not with gossip, but with respect. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She didn't collapse. She stood. Darius's image never recovered fully. He continued working, but without the admiration he once relied on. People saw him more clearly now, polished but hollow. At a community event months later, a young woman approached Ariel. "I saw what you did," she said softly. "I was about to apologize for something that wasn't my fault. I didn't." Ariel smiled. "Good," she said. "Never apologize for surviving." On the anniversary of the night she walked away, Ariel returned to the old neighborhood. She didn't go to the house. She went to a park nearby and sat on a bench beneath a wide oak tree. She thought about the woman she had been, the one who believed endurance was love, the one who thought silence was strength. She forgave her. Then she stood, brushed off her dress, and whispered words she had once been too afraid to say. "I choose myself, not in anger, not in revenge, but in truth." And that choice, that single quiet decision, changed everything.